And if you're new here, I make videos about the Nutritarian diet and living a vegan lifestyle. So if either of those topics interest you, please consider subscribing to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the #1 thing that I did for my health. And I'm gonna start this video by sharing a little bit of my personal journey. And if that's not something that interests you, I'll put a timestamp so you can fast forward. So to give you a little bit of context, I went plant-based a few years ago when the high-carb, low-fat movement was a really big thing. So if any of you went vegan in 2014 or 2015, you know what I'm talking about. It was kind of like 80-10-10, 95-5 style of eating, trying to reduce the amount of fat, but eating a lot of carbs. And this way of eating was really enticing for me and for a lot of people because you could eat so much food but still manage to lose weight. So I was eating a ton of like rice, potatoes, fruits, lots of carbs, including processed carbs like pasta, even maple syrup, bread, and I still managed to lose weight by eating this way. And this was so crazy to me because the only way that I had known before of losing weight or even managing your weight was by portion control, restricting your calories, and if you're following like a standard Western diet, that is something that you have to do. But we all know that is not sustainable. It's not sustainable to restrict calories. So this way of eating was really amazing for me. I developed such a better relationship with food because of this. I just stopped being afraid of calories, so that was great. So in this way of eating, like I said, carbs were like the god. That's what you want. You want to just eat a lot of carbs, and I basically didn't eat like any salads during that time, barely any vegetables, which is so crazy to me now because that is such a huge part of my diet now. So when I think back on that diet, I wouldn't say that it was a junk food vegan diet, but health and longevity were definitely not a priority for me. But as I went further along my journey, I started researching about what the plant-based doctors were recommending, and then that's when I found out about Dr. John McDougall and the starch solution. So in the starch solution, you are filling the majority of your plate with whole starches like potatoes, rice, and healthy foods like that. So definitely less processed foods than I was used to. So my health definitely did improve from doing that. And then I started researching more and I found out about Dr. Fuhrman's Eat to Live diet. So I've made so many videos about the Nutritarian diet. Obviously, I'm super passionate about it. I think that it's just such a good way to look at food. So many diets, you look at food in terms of their macronutrient breakdown, but in the Nutritarian diet, you're trying to optimize your micronutrient to calorie ratio. So Dr. Fuhrman has a health equation which equals N/C, nutrients per calorie, so that determines how healthy you are. So you want to be eating tons of foods that are really high in micronutrients but relatively low in macronutrients. So this is where I get into the best thing that I did for my health was to eat a lot of green vegetables. And I know this sounds so simple. We're told our whole lives like you gotta eat your vegetables, but it wasn't until I started eating a Nutritarian diet where I realized the benefits of eating a lot of green vegetables. If you look at the standard American diet, over half of the calories are coming from processed foods, and over 30% of the calories are coming from animal products. Only about 10% is coming from produce, and most of that is coming from French fries and ketchup. So the standard Western diet does not include a lot of vegetables, but the Nutritarian diet definitely does. So if you look at the Nutritarian food pyramid, you can see at the bottom, like the bulk of your calories are coming from vegetables, okay? So why are green vegetables so beneficial? So I've made a video before about the ANDI scale. So this is coined by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and it stands for the Aggregate Nutrient Density Index. And basically all foods are given a score of 1 to 1,000. And the scale is based on 34 parameters. So things like anti-cancer properties, phytochemicals, antioxidants, sterols, etc. If you compare that to a food label at a grocery store, that does not include 34 parameters. So it's very comprehensive, and the only foods that have a score of above 100, so 100 to all the way to 1,000, are vegetables. And the only foods that have scores even close to 1,000 are green vegetables. So kale has a score of 1,000. We've got mustard greens and collard greens also have extremely high scores. So if you want to learn more about that, I'll leave that video in the description. Okay, so green vegetables are obviously super, super healthy, but I also want to mention that they are the lowest on the calorie density scale. So that's another thing I also made a video about. So if you compare a pound of oil has 4,000 calories, and then a pound of vegetables has 100 calories. So even if you eat a lot of green vegetables, it is pretty much impossible to overdo it with the calories. Like, they're so calorie dilute. Even when you cook them, that does increase their calories slightly, but they're still the most calorie dilute foods on the planet. So I'm not trying to say that you should be only eating green vegetables. That is absolutely impossible to sustain. You will not get enough calories. All I'm trying to say is anytime that you eat a dish, think of ways where you can incorporate more green vegetables. So one thing that I do every single day is I have a giant green salad. That's one of the principles of the Nutritarian diet, is that salad should be the main dish for at least one of your meals. So that is such an easy way to get a lot of green vegetables, and you can add so much bulk to it. I add lots of beans, I add a really healthy nut-based dressing, and a lot of other vegetables, and it is a super high nutrient meal. For breakfast, you could make a fruit smoothie and put a ton of greens in there. You won't even taste them. Spinach is one that's really good for that. It doesn't have a lot of flavor. Chef AJ starts her morning by steaming a bunch of vegetables, and then she also drinks the green water at the end because that contains a lot of nutrients. I am not that hardcore. I like my oatmeal, and I'm not adding greens to my oatmeal. But there are other ways that you can incorporate greens too. So anytime that I follow a recipe for like a soup or a stew, I will chop up a bunch of greens and throw it in there, even if it's not in the recipe, because it's just such an easy way to make that meal more nutrient dense. Also, I'll take my cooked dishes or whatever and often put them on a bed of greens. I also find it quite delicious to wrap my fruit in greens. You can put a little nut butter on there, add some extra flavor. And if you're vegan, you've probably made banana and ice cream before. That's such an easy one. You can put in lots of greens in. So when I grocery shop, I just make sure that my fridge is stocked with lots of fresh leafy greens, and I also buy frozen kale a lot too. So you can probably tell my favorite greens are kale. I really like spinach, romaine, but there's so many other ones like the arugula, Swiss chard, collard greens. There's so many options for greens, and it's really good to eat a lot of a variety of greens so you can get as many nutrients as you can. So no one is ever gonna refute the benefits of greens. Everyone knows they're healthy. Another thing that I found with greens is I suffered for quite a few years with acne, and even when I adopted a vegan diet, my skin did improve, I think, from eliminating the dairy from my diet. Even like eating a starch solution, I still suffered from occasional breakouts, but it wasn't until I adopted a Nutritarian diet that I didn't have to deal with skin issues anymore or breakouts. And I honestly think it is because of all the green vegetables I eat. Not only do they, prevent disease, but they're also good for your outer health as well, and I really think that they should be prescribed more often than, those expensive topical treatments. I might make a video one day about my struggles with acne and how a Nutritarian diet really helped me with that. So last thing I wanted to say was that I think that we are meant to eat way more green vegetables. If you look at how genetically close we are to primates, look how many green vegetables they eat. Even as a Nutritarian, we don't even come close. And like I said, this is not trying to say that your diet should be all green vegetables. You can't live like that. You would be eating literally all day long. But I'm just saying that it's such an easy thing that you can incorporate incorporate into your food, into any type of dish. All right guys, so that wraps up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and let me know what kind of videos you would like to see in the future. I appreciate you watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.